All right. So 5G and why it's going to be a better choice. So what's that Priceline guy holding? Anybody remember their Star Trek trivia? What's the thing in his hand?
A phone.
Ding, ding, ding. The communicator.
A communicator, yes. And so in late 1960s, this was just a pipe dream. And now we're all carrying around something much more advanced in our pockets. But what is that 5G? No, it's not. It's not Wi-Fi. That 2.4 gigahertz versus 5 gigahertz signal that often people get confused. It has nothing to do with Wi-Fi. What 5G is? What's the G stand for? Well, it's generational. It's fifth generation, and well, it's the fifth generation of what? Anybody know? Nobody?
GMS, Global
Is it
Mobile.
cellular?
No, sorry.
Cellular 5G?
Yes, it's cellular. Very good. Who said that?
Denise.
Denise, you're ahead of the game. It is cellular. So first generation was around the early 80s, and they came with a box. It was a big car phone that you stuck in your car and all that stuff. And in some of us that are my age and older might remember a TV show that made everybody really excited about this new box. So, old Miami Vice. So, and we're going to cover up.
Paul Drake on Perry Mason had a phone in his car.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I remember Perry Mason from when it was black and white.
I'm not old enough for Perry Mason, but I've heard that story.
Very cool. So, first generation was early 1980s. Second generation was that Nextel phone because, data was still not transmitting so the signal was actually better if you used the radio a lot of times. But you'd be sitting in a restaurant, you hear beep, beep, and people would you could hear their entire conversation, and it was annoying. Third generation started to kind of get, like the flip phones and the smaller, smaller phones and stuff like that. And that was probably right around late 90s, early 2000s. And experts don't really agree on the dates, but that's in general. Around 2011, we are where we are now, which is fourth generation phones, which are smartphones like the iPhones and all that. So where are we going now? Fifth generation, which is starting now, it's going to be a massive advance. And I know y'all have heard that, but we're going to talk about what it really means and how it's going to affect everything. So one of the things, though, that we really need to understand is that our internet companies have a monopoly on the internet right now. Our cable companies, internet companies, they pretty much have almost a nationwide monopoly. They divided up areas. We are one of the rare areas that has a little competition. So most of us hate our internet service providers. Why do we hate our internet service providers? Because they're expensive. And we're constantly throwing money every month at them, and they can raise rates at their leisure. And who are you going to go to, right? So what's going to happen when we get 5G is we're going to end the monopoly game. It's going to totally destroy the cable companies' monopolies, which is going to be something very interesting in a minute because you're going to see some interesting transitions by our cable companies. So ending the monopoly game. Right now in our area, you've got two choices for reliable internet. You've got Spectrum and you've got Frontier. And many of you, or at least some of you, won't have both of those options right now, even still. But the majority of us in the Tampa Bay market have either Spectrum or Frontier as options for our internet. What 5G is going to do is it brings mobile phone companies into the game of internet deliverability. So T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T are all huge investors in 5G. Spectrum now is investing in mobile. Well, why are they doing that? Because they see the competition. They see that they're a little afraid of what's going to happen when T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, when you can go to your mobile companies. So they're going to get involved in it as well. Frontier, who took over for Verizon and GTE and all that, Frontier hasn't jumped into the mobile game yet because they're still struggling to kind of get things back on board after. They've actually considered selling everything back to Verizon because of the headaches of when they bought the internet service from them.
Well, and there was that bankruptcy thing too,
Yeah, there's that whole bankruptcy thing.
You're fine,
But
you're
it-
totally fine.
But hey, it's totally fine. We're going to be good. But how is that going to work? First of all, your internet would be delivered through a wireless router, which not the hotspots that some of you may have carrying around or whatever, and not from your phone. So there's going to have to be these routers that they're going to basically put in your house, maybe an antenna, stuff like that, probably near a window, and then everything's going to be distributed from there. And you could probably use your phone a lot more often as a hotspot. What is 5G going to mean for things like a movie download, for instance? So as an example, the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, it's a 2-hour-long movie. How long would it take to download? Well, with 3G, it took 26 hours to download that movie. So, you could fly from New York to Sydney and all your check-in times and all that stuff in that time frame. And in 4G, which is what we're kind of at now, you could run a mile. It's about 6 minutes. So that's a huge, huge difference in time. 5G, it's going to take you 3.6 seconds. You'll have the time to say, is it downloaded yet? And that's it. So 5G is going to be a massive, massive undertaking of how much faster things are going to be delivered to you. Maybe you're not a movie fan, though, and maybe you're not really on it. So what? I don't care. I don't like movies, and I sure as heck don't like Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, what else can it do? So 5G technology is going to have sensors everywhere, smart vehicles and transportation. So 18-wheelers, on the interstates could actually travel without a driver. There are experiments right now with that, and it's scary if you think about it. I mean, could you imagine driving alongside a computer-driven 18-wheeler? Well, it's going to be okay because your vehicle's probably on the interstate going to be driven by the car also. So once you get on the interstate, you're all going one direction. You'll have radars and stuff to keep you all a safe distance apart. You can sit back and read the newspaper, or, well, who reads newspapers anymore? You can scan the internet while you get driven to work every day. Infrastructure is going to be much different, monitoring and controlling. Obviously there's going to be artificial intelligence, which I won't get too technical about that, but all that information, it's going to be a kind of a war between the people that are trying to provide cybersecurity and those that are trying to hack. So that'll be an interesting little challenge. Remote devices will have critical control. Robots will be more involved. Now, I'm sure there's going to be military applications of that too, but I don't want to go down all conspiracy theorist on it. And then Internet of Things. You're probably going to be carrying a lot more devices that are connected to the internet, and not the ones that not the refrigerator that has a TV. I mean, I don't understand the need to have a TV on a refrigerator, but okay, if you have one, great. But there's going to be a lot more devices that are internet connected. So how will we know when we get there? Well, there are standards that they're actually measuring as to when we reach these standards. That's when we know we've had 5G. 10 gigabits per second data rate delivery. Right now, most of you are probably at maybe 200 megabits for your home, maybe 400 to 600 if you have Spectrum Business. And then you can get up to gigabit delivery, 1 gigabit. But that is, that's a very, very expensive purchase, every month to pay for 1 gigabit. 5 nines availability, so it's going to be a lot more reliable. So the phone, the video conferencing that we're doing right now, where we have drop packets, where people can't hear each other, where it sounds like you're underwater, a lot of that stuff is going to be resolved. It's going to be fixed. It's going to be much more reliable. 1,000 times your bandwidth per unit area. I know that much up to 100 times more connected devices per area. 10-year battery life. They're working on trying to increase your battery life. Can you imagine not having to charge your battery for 10 years? That's pretty amazing. And all of that stuff can also lend to being able to drive your car if it's an electric car, having your cell phone, all that stuff. So it's really kind of exciting. And 100% coverage. I mean, I still have friends and I still have clients that I cannot get high-speed internet for. I know Deb was one that we recently helped get high-speed internet for, and before that, she had to work off of a hotspot. I still have clients that I can't get high-speed internet for, but this is 100% coverage. So everyone should be able to get it, whether you're in the mountains. Now, probably not, over the ocean, but maybe they'll surprise me. Okay, so what are the challenges, and how do we get there? What's holding us back? Well, there's a cost to what we do. Obviously, there's a huge cost invested in this. There's also technophobia. The people that are scared of 5G. Oh my God, 5G is going to cause cancer. We address those questions at least, probably at least once every couple of weeks, where somebody's asking us about the safety of 5G and does it cause cancer? No, it does not cause cancer. I mean, no more than anything else, like eating bologna or eating some of the other crappy food that we eat, or any of the other bad things we do. Especially when the people walk up to you smoking a cigarette and they're 80 pounds overweight, and then they're like, "So I hear 5G causes cancer." You're safe, buddy. You're going to make it. So anyway, the equipment, though, the cost of the equipment. I mean, the new routers, the devices that you're going to be, the new cell phones that are going to be 5G compatible, the antennas, all that stuff that are involved. 5G doesn't travel as far as the other delivery. So there's probably going to have to be more antennas and stuff like that. But hey, the labor costs of building these devices, those have a cost. And often what we've done in America is we farm that out to third world countries, and China doesn't have a whole lot of concern about their citizens, so they're happy to jump up and run with that. So and that's how we get ourselves in a little bit of trouble, because we don't want to spend more more money on those devices. But who can we trust to build those devices? And that's where we come into Huawei. I don't know if any of y'all have heard about the news about Huawei or not. Maybe you've heard the term. Maybe you're like, I don't know what Huawei is. But I'm going to teach you. So Huawei is a Chinese company, which in other words means it's a Chinese government-owned facility that builds cell phones and other cell phone technology. Largely because it's inexpensive and everything else, they were a worldwide leader in cell phone technology, and they were leading the pack with building the routers for 5G. That's great. That's really exciting, because you can get your 5G routers really, really cheap. Okay. So there's an old video. I mean, it's an old movie from 1992 called Sneakers. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I'm going to play a quick clip.
The world isn't run by weapons anymore, or energy, or money. It's run by little ones and zeros, little bits of data. It's all just electrons. I don't care.
I don't expect other people to understand this, but I do expect you to understand this. We started this journey together.
It wasn't a journey, guys. It was a prank.
There's a war out there, old friend. A world war.
And it's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information. What we see and hear, how we work, what we think. It's all about the information.
If I were you, I'd destroy that thing.
Here's the problem with having Huawei and Chinese government connected. China is one of our worst offenders for cyber attacks, for hacking and stuff like that. Now, obviously, there are others as well, like Iran, North Korea, Iraq. But we're probably doing it too. So don't think we're the good guys in all this. We started some of this, but the problem is that China and Huawei are so connected. The government has basically, the U.S. government said, we're not doing business with Huawei any longer, and we've ordered the arrest, and she was arrested, I think, in Canada, of the daughter of the owner of Huawei. So Huawei, in some of their routers, installed a backdoor so that basically they can monitor and they can collect data from the people that use that. So we don't really want their devices in our businesses, in our infrastructure, in our government, and all that stuff. So we're not doing business with Huawei, even though they're one of the leading 5G companies in the world. So what do? We have to build it ourselves. So the infrastructure bill that all of you have heard about so much, probably in the last few weeks, includes a broadband component. And I'm sure that investment is going to be a lot to do with finding a solution to deliver these products at a decent, affordable rate. So that's where we're going to probably talk about a few different things. One is you probably want to get with Mac to see who's going to be a beneficiary of some of that money. Number one, who's going to be taking that money and investing it, because the winner of 5G, the race in America, is going to be a huge company. They're going to see huge gains. So if you're looking, you got a couple $1,000s or something set aside and you want to make some money, find those companies that are about to have a huge jump and invest in those. So any questions?
So what are the downsides of all this?
Well, the downsides are the data is going to be coming at you a whole lot faster. Again, the challenges are going to be of being able to secure, right now it's hard enough when you're getting inundated with so many different emails and so many different text messages and all the different ways that they're going to be trying to trick you into clicking on the wrong link and all that stuff. It's not going to get easier. The benefit of the upside of that is we're going to have artificial intelligence to offset that as well. But that's not necessarily going to be, an easy solution. It's something that we're going to have to work with. So I don't see, other than that, any huge downsides.
If I may, the downside.
So data. What'd you say, Devin?
If I may, Deb, the downsides will be that you will be more productive, the internet will be faster, and you will have less excuses to use for not being able to connect to people. So, no more drop phone calls, no more drop Zoom calls, no more slow internet, no more connectivity issues.
Well, there are other downsides.
So is data going to be less secure? Is all the data, with all this connectivity, will data be less secure? Will data even be less secure than it is now?
There's always going to be a challenge between security and functionality. The other thing too is there's a lot of people, because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. There would be a challenge on truckers. If we can do it with robots, why would we need truck drivers? There's going to be people in manufacturing. There's a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. They're going to have to find other ways of making money. So.
And especially if it's safer.
So I have a question. In
that way too. That's the thing, is you're taking a great deal of the human error out of it.
Yeah, there's an advantage. I mean, you're going to have a surgeon that can probably be in, say, the Bahamas, and he can actually be on a video call, and he can even remotely control robots in order to do surgery. And maybe he can do 3 at a time or 5 at a time. Who knows? But ultimately, it's going to be a whole different paradigm shift in the way we think about a lot of different industries.
Okay, so you mentioned technophobia at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so my question would be, which isn't necessarily technophobia, what's the plan as the population continues to age, and we're not necessarily raising a younger population to do it, as they lose manual dexterity, and there's no way in the world they can work all this technology. So what's the plan for that? I mean, think about art. Control, have the manual technology even for a smartphone.
Yeah,
okay,
training, and I'll let Devin and Montre control that. I got to go put my dog up real quick. Hang on.
What was the question?
I mean, we already have things like Siri and Alexa that basically run our entire households. I mean, I have almost every single thing that I have plugged in to my house is a smart plug, and I can operate it via a tiny little doohickey sitting on my coffee table. I don't turn on the light.
But Danielle, you're of a generation that has technology. I'm talking about people who are in their 70s, 80s, don't want technology, might have flip phones, might have old grade smartphones, but as manual dexterity is lost, for one, I'm just curious how people are going to, because it just seems to me not about technology, but many things. The unintended consequence of doing these great things for people who are of an age or interest in doing them does not take into account the people who are of an age and no interest in doing them.
So
I think that you're missing the point that this rise in technology and this growth in technology is going to allow people who aren't necessarily as familiar with that technology use that technology in an easier way. So
Right.
you being able to talk to your devices is certainly a lot easier than you having to pick up that device and then control it.
Yeah,
and-
Okay. All right.
think of your Echo device. Think of your Echo or Amazon Echo or whatever if you have one. You know, where you're talking to it, it's going to be advanced as well, much more advanced. The other things too is this is not going to happen like the click of a switch. This is going to gradually happen. So you're going to adjust. You know, when we looked at that 1G through 5G, we probably don't even remember, you know, the transitions between those different phones and all that stuff. We don't think of it that way. It's not a, you know, an immediate. This just happened. It's going to be over the course of time. I mean, probably the next 10, 15 years.
David, I have a question.
Yes.
That's more about making money. Where do you find those companies that might be buying for the product?
I would talk to Mac, a financial advisor who does that kind of research. That's certainly not something that I am comfortable with because, you know, a company like what Mac works for, Harold Macintosh, you know, they're constantly doing research. That's what they do as financial advisors and investors and stuff. Is they're constantly doing the background research to see, you know, where the money's going, who's benefiting from it, what they're doing with it, and all that stuff. So, if you want to invest, I say talk to somebody like Mac or somebody who does financial advising with a big corporation. So,
Okay.
so all right.